All right, so a black man spends 47 years in prison in Louisiana. He is paroled. He is paroled. He is literally walking out of prison. And what do the idiots in Louisiana do? They arrest him on parole violations. Yeah, y'all. March 18th, Louisiana Board of Pardons and Committee on Parole unanimously voted that Bobby Sneed should be released from Angola prison. But he remained in prison 9 months after his parole date, following 2 court decisions ordering his release. What's going on there? Thomas Frampton, an associate professor of law at the University of Virginia out of Charlottesville. He is the attorney for Mr. Sneed. Glad to have you here, Thomas Frampton. I'm confused. He's arrested, walking out of prison. When did this release happen? When did he walk out of prison? When was he arrested?
So this whole ordeal actually goes back, as you said, till March. He actually should have been released 9 months ago. But about 2 days before Bobby's release, after 47 years in prison, he collapsed. So he's in Angola prison. He has a heart attack. His heart stops. He's actually resuscitated, and they bring him to the hospital. They save his life. It turns out that he had COVID. He had a severe case of hypoxia, of pneumonia in his lungs. But then when his release date comes and goes, instead of releasing him, they just bring him back to the prison, alleging that he didn't have a heart attack, that he had a drug overdose. Now, he's cleared of those charges. He is
wait, hold on. They said he had a drug overdose, which means that he was in the hospital, meaning that was a toxicology report.
That's right. And there are a couple issues there. One of them is that they injected him with opiates as soon as he collapsed. So any toxicology reports showing opiates doesn't really tell you a whole lot. The other big issue, though, was that there's no proof that the sample that they actually tested was Bobby's. So he was cleared of wrongdoing related to that. But nevertheless, they kept him in a prison cell. We've been fighting that case for about 9 months, and the Louisiana Supreme Court eventually agreed with us. They sided with us that Bobby has been held in violation of the 14th Amendment, that he has essentially been kidnapped ever since March 29th of this year. So we all yet again celebrated Bobby coming home. We had folks there at the prison gates ready to welcome him. He was, but literally at the moment of his release, after 47 years, the Louisiana Parole Board rearrested him yet again and took him now to a parish jail. And they're arguing that he committed a separate parole violation at some point during these past 9 months, while he hasn't been out on parole, but while he's been a prisoner still in Angola the entire time.
So this is a photo here of Bobby Sneed that we have up right now. What is strange and crazy about this particular case is that so he gets rearrested. So where do we stand now? I mean, you literally have two judicial decisions saying release the man. What the hell is Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards is doing? What is he doing? I mean, what's going on? So Bobby's just sitting there in prison, like in limbo?
Yes. We are now in federal court. We're in front of a federal judge in the Middle District of Louisiana. But to answer your question, it's become increasingly clear as this saga has gotten more and more absurd over the past 9 months that until a federal judge sends in federal troops to actually enforce the U.S. Constitution, it does not seem like Louisiana officials have any interest whatsoever in respecting the 14th Amendment or the First Amendment. I mean, part of what's the subtext here is that Bobby has been outspoken about his case. He has been critical of prison officials, especially after this ordeal of the past 9 months. And so they're trying to teach him a lesson, and they're going to keep retaliating against him until literally a federal judge sends in federal authorities. I don't see any other end game here at this point.
What was so strange here, I'm reading this particular piece here, and it says that in early May, Sneed was acquitted of a charge in prison. And this is what is hilarious. They said, however, so he was acquitted. However, a single member of the parole board moved to rescind Sneed's parole. The following week, the parole board convened a second hearing during which Snead was not able to present evidence, call witnesses, or view the evidence against him. The board voted to strip Snead's parole. I mean, first of all, what was he put in prison for? Why are they so desperate to keep this man in prison when he's been there for 47 years?
Right. So you might think that Bobby, based on sort of the way they've been acting as some kind of serial killer, 47 years ago, after serving honorably in the U.S. military and being honorably discharged after Vietnam, Bobby served as a lookout for what was supposed to be a burglary. Now, the people that actually went into the house killed one of the homeowners, and that's an absolute tragedy. Bobby takes full responsibility for his role in that. But he has been serving time for murder, for essentially being a lookout to a burglary ever since then. You brought up this hearing in May. One of the state court judges who ordered him released, a Baton Rouge judge, one of the few black judges that Bobby has been in front of this entire time, referred to that proceeding as, quote, "I don't know if you want to call it a hearing or a lynching." And that's an accurate question. What has been happening to Bobby over the past 9 months has the veneer of a legal proceeding, but in reality, it resembles nothing close to what we would think the rule of law should look like in America.
Are there any state officials who are clamoring for the man to be released? I mean, who's speaking up for him?
Every top level state official has been doing everything they can to clean their hands of this. We've talked to the Secretary of the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, reached out to the governor's office, and at every turn we get, well, this is just up to the parole board. Now, I don't buy that, right? The governor or the secretary, they could make this end tomorrow. But a lot of the responsibility really rests here with these unaccountable bureaucrats that make up the Louisiana Parole Board, who just have incredible amounts of power. And frankly, I think have gotten accustomed to abusing that sort of discretion and power that they wield.
You wrote this too in a briefing, which is, I mean, it's laughable. You said Mr. Snead could not have committed a parole violation on November 9th, 2021, because he was not released on parole until December 10th, 2021.
Yeah, so this is going to be the first ever parole violation in Louisiana history, as far as I can tell, where somebody is accused of violating their parole a month before they were actually released on parole. Wow. During the past 9 months, Bobby Snead also didn't meet with his parole officer like he was supposed to. He didn't send monthly reports in. He wasn't paying his $63 supervision fee. You know, and I have no doubt that, you know, he could be revoked for parole violations for each of those things, too. Of course, that's absurd. He wasn't a parolee. He was a prisoner for the last 9 months where he was being held illegally by Louisiana state officials. But they don't seem to have any kind of interest in following the law. And the other really crazy thing about this case, throughout this whole time, even if you accept that Bobby used drugs on 1 or 2 occasions, which is one of the allegations, paying $25,000 or $30,000 a year of taxpayer money to keep him incarcerated, a man who just turned 75 years old, when we've lined up private charities, like, look, if they want him to go to a drug treatment, we'll pay for it out of our own pockets. But the level of vindictiveness, of spite that is animating this is really just off the charts.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. Please certainly keep us up to date. What happens in this case, whatever we can do, we certainly will love to do that. But this is just crazy. Thomas Frampton, thanks a lot.
Thank you.